Welcome to our podcast offerings, where we invite you to take responsibility for your own well-being, reclaim your energetic sovereignty, embody authentic living, and come home to your true self. We are two sisters, two oceans apart. Maya Lotz from the Energy for Life Wellbeing Practice, and Sandy Lotz Viner from the Inspired Life Coaching Practice. Together, we bring you the Ocean of Abundance podcast and lots of possibilities to engage with when you choose to align with the wisdom of nature. In this podcast episode, we will be offering an overview of our FYRN approach, which is at the heart of all our offerings. FYRN is our acronym for fascia and trauma informed, yoga inspired, Reiki empowered, and nature infused. Sandy and I recently launched our new website, lotsofpossibilities.com. You can find the link in the show notes. We encourage you to have a look at our website and see what's on offer, and also to refer back to our previous podcast episode where we spoke about how this was birthed and the origins of its name. We also unpacked our online heart space Sanctuary for Life. I will briefly recap before we continue with this episode. Lotsofpossibilities.com is home to our combined online heart space, Sanctuary for Life, which offers virtual support on your journey home to your true self in resonance with your highest good, and where you can also find out more about our respective in-person well-being practices, Inspired Life and Energy for Life. We apply the FYRN approach to curate our own personal sanctuaries for life. And just like fascia, this approach is non-summative and it's all interconnected. Before we begin our conversation today, I'd like to invite all of us to experience a simple technique which forms part of our FYRN Lifestyle approach. We have included a link in the show notes for those of you who may not be able to participate right now as you are, for example, driving, and also for those of you who may want to return and revisit this gentle technique in future. The practice of bringing two hands together helps us to attune, connect, and come into presence with ourselves and co-regulate together. So let's take a moment now to practice together with the intention of clearing mental clutter and creating a sense of inner spaciousness. I invite you to close your eyes or lower and rest your gaze gently. Bring your hands together in front of your heart space, palms and fingertips touching, with your thumbs connecting to your sternum. And notice for yourself who is here today, without judgment or any attempt to fix or adjust anything. Now press the palms together firmly and notice the sensations of whole body engagement and structural support. Let's lighten the pressure so there's a little space between the palms while keeping the fingertips and edges of the hands connected and the thumbs still resting on the heart space. Sense the spaciousness you experience while retaining support and heart connection. Now hold your attention on your two hands coming together, feeling supported yet spacious, and allow everything else to fade into the background, letting your awareness rest on your hands. It's perfectly normal if your mind's wandering. As soon as you notice your mind has drifted off, just gently bring your awareness back to your hands again and again. Thank you. Welcome, listeners, and welcome, Sandy. Lovely to be together again today.
Thank you, Maya. That was a lovely way to start a podcast. When I put my hands together the first time, there was a little bit of muscular pressure involved, more like exercise. So I could feel that my shoulders got involved, muscles got involved. There was a bit of efforting going on there. And I could feel the support, but it was effort at the support, right? I was aware of physical mechanics. When I lightened the touch to my fingers, and I created space between the palms, I still felt supported, but I felt supported and spaciousness. It's almost like my shoulders expanded, my heart chakra lifted up, and I felt lighter and taller. Still connected because my fingertips were touching, but with the least amount of effort. So we're moving from that awareness that I have to find and create support with effort versus it's always available with the slightest changes. It's always there, just as a reminder. And the other sensation I had was between the palms of my hands, I could feel heat. It was a warm kind of sensation of light or heat between my arms. So, yeah, what a beautiful explanation of how easy it is to tap into what support really can look like for me on a daily basis. And that I can do that at any stage of during the day. Just hands in prayer position in front of the sternum and regroup.
Lovely. Yeah, and this helps us with intention and attention. And there's actually so much behind many of these simple gestures, like bringing left and right brain hemispheres together. Each fingertip represents something. And fascia, talking to fascia. So, we are here today to unpack the FYRN acronym and FYRN Lifestyle approach, which is concise and portable, and it can be applied anytime, and your daily practices can grow with you. So, the F in the FYRN approach stands for fascia and trauma informed. So, right off the bat, I want to say we're not fascia or trauma experts, we are fascia and trauma informed. And this means we've been trained and we continue to educate ourselves to practice in this manner with ourselves and our clients. And as such, we honor our body, your body's innate wisdom, its resilience, and its ability to heal. So, what is fascia? Well, it is your largest sensory organ. But let's go to one of the experts in the field for her definition. So, when I was looking for appropriate definition for fascia related to the work Sandy and I do, I happened to listen to Joanne Abberson's podcast, and I encourage you to go listen to her podcast if you want to know more about fascia. And in an episode, The Energetic Body and Fascia, A Bridge to Spiritual Awakening, she said the following: fascia is not simply connective tissue. It is a living, fluid, hydrating, responsive matrix that connects every structure with every other structure. It is the largest proprioceptive organ in the body, which means it is the largest organ of self-perception. It also emits light and transmits sound as waves or resonance. And she went on to say, we feel all of it, and it feels us. So, understanding the fascial system helps us to understand freedom, sovereignty, innate biointelligence, resonance, a state of coherence, and so much more. And fascia was the element in the acronym that Sandy and I came to last, as far as knowledge is concerned. But it is the first element we incorporate in our approach to working with your body wisdom and our own body wisdom. From the moment we wake up and pandiculate, the natural involuntary yawn stretch reflex that acts as a reset for the body. Let's do the whole body yawn together to demonstrate pandiculation. So this is great if you start lying down, but you can also be sitting or standing if lying down is not an option for you right now. And I invite you to invoke a yawn. And then notice the movements that instinctively accompany it. So don't think this, just create a yawn and see what the body wants to do. Be curious, be creative, let your body move and stretch wherever it feels good. And now allow yourself to come into a few moments of stillness, aware of your body sensations.
I'm going to give you a little bit of a feedback on the little exercise we just did. So with my yawn, my arms went up and then it went sideways. And then I started doing something like a starfish movement. So I became bigger and expansive and taller. And that reminds me of what a fern does when it starts unfolding. We're asleep, and then we start, when the fern grows, the arm goes up and it starts to unfold and it gets taller and taller and closer to the light, and eventually it grows more wider. And so, yeah, the plant fern has something like 10 to 12,000 species worldwide. They apparently grow on all continents at the moment, or currently not in Antarctica, but we do know that they have some of those species in fossils. So at some point they were there, but not at the moment. So it predates the dinosaurs. These are ancient plants and they have survived. So they're resilient. They're pretty low maintenance. I have two ferns that I have in pots on my patio, and they don't need a lot of work. They are pretty giving, and they're also air purifiers. So some of us, depending on your climate, have them outdoors, but you can also have indoor ferns. So here's a wonderful way for us to bring nature inside our own homes, right? Into our sanctuary. So I can look through my window at my plant, or I can have the plant in my house. Not all ferns, I thought they were all evergreens, but they're not. There are some deciduous ones, and so they adapt to the climate that they grow in. What a message for us, right? I'm speaking to myself because I'm a transplant from a different continent. And you sometimes wonder, can I ever survive or thrive as a transplant? And the answer is yes, we adapt to the climate depending on the self care we do, right? And when there's dormant times in your life, those seasons where it feels like, my hair doesn't feel like it's growing, don't worry. Just like the fern, new sprouts will come out when the time is right, under the right conditions. We will unfold. And so the practices that we put into the fern kind of simulates that movement, creating spaciousness inside the body, unfolding, curling towards the light, if you want to say that, lifting the heart up to the sky, as opposed to concave, constricted, protecting the heart. So very much living from a heart space open. So, like the fern, we are forever unfolding into a new version of us, probably a stronger, more capable, more sovereign version of us. And so that whole storyline brings me to the F in our fern approach, FYRN. And that is the fascia part, as Maya said, and it stands for creating spaciousness. Because if we want to bring new things in, we actually have to first create some space, right, for these new things to come into our lives. And then we also have to maybe disrupt old habitual pattern and maybe think of, is there another conscious way of moving, not just my body, but through my day or through my life with the way I structure my lifestyle. We have a lovely blog post that we will reference in the footnotes that goes into detail about fascia, which is really easy to read and gives a really interesting perspective as to how this all works. But I think we're ready for a fascia exercise, Maya.
All right. So why we're popping all these exercises in is because we want to encourage you to have an integrated lifestyle, and movement and hydrating fascia is key here. So before we continue, let's hydrate our fascia right where you are now. So for those of you who are able to stand, we invite you to do some gentle rebounding. You keep your feet firmly on the ground and initiate a gentle up and down bounce. And we let go of muscular control and lean into the momentum of the action. So you have to start it, and then it's like those little swinging kinetic toys. Once it's going, you just keep up with the momentum. If you're seated, you could simply rebound your legs by lifting your heels up and down, or you could sway from side to side. And for those lying down, if you are able to, we invite you to cross your arms and gently stroke up and down the arm. And if that is not available to you, we invite you to visualize either the rebounding or the swaying. So let's take 90 seconds here to rebound. And bringing the practice to a close, just notice now the stillness in your body. Savor it for a moment. And you can return to this as many times in a day as you desire. Okay, so the F of the FYRN approach is fascia and trauma informed. And when we say we are trauma informed, what we mean is we recognize individual choice and agency, and we hope to inspire you towards self empowerment. And whether we work in person or remotely, we aim to offer you a safe relational space through compassionate presence, attunement, trust, and connection is fostered through resonance. We aim to use invitational language. We invite you to explore what is present for you now and encourage you to listen to your body, which is interoception. And we invite you to create and curate for yourself daily practices that are aligned with where you are now in life, in body, in mind, in spirit, and at your own pace. Put simply, we encourage you to notice what you notice, and our approach and movements support the nervous system. They're mindful and/or rhythmic and repetitive, where we lean into sensations without activating the nervous system. And we also love using micro movements and micro exercises. And with that, I think we can move over to talking about the Y in our FYRN acronym, which is yoga inspired. So when we say yoga inspired, we're referring to all 8 limbs of yoga, which provide a structured path for holistic living, ethical discipline, spiritual growth, and moving from external behaviors towards internal realization. So most people think of yoga as only the asana leg, but yoga means union, body, mind, spirit. It's about experience and integration. It's an holistic approach. And here again, we notice and acknowledge the echoes back to fascia, Reiki, nature. Like we mentioned at the start, our FYRN lifestyle approach is non-summative. The parts are more than the whole, and it's all interconnected.
I love yoga. It's such a wonderful modality when you look at all the 8 limbs of yoga. Like you said, most of us, me too, started with yoga on the mat as an asana or an exercise. There was a deeper longing, but I didn't quite realize it at the time. For me, it stimulated curiosity because I experienced a sense of calm and peace whenever I did the asanas. And that kind of started to linger with me during my day. And the more yoga I did, and the more of the 8 limbs I learned about, I realized this is a lifestyle. You don't yoga on the mat, you live your yoga. So from waking up more naturally and stretching to deciding to do yoga before you leave home, it doesn't necessarily have to be an hour on a mat in a class. It could be something very small, and sometimes our lifestyles are busy. So instead of waiting until I have the appropriate time to do a class, you can start integrating small pieces of yoga into your daily life. While boiling the kettle for water, you can do a forward fold. It's those micro moves, those intuitive micro moves that is helping you. You're doing yoga, but you're also doing fascia release at the same time. And it's very much lifestyle driven. And if you can meet yourself on the mat every day, you can also understand what is coming up for you before you meet the rest of the world. So it's once again, what does my body need? What kind of movements do I need for me before I feel balanced? You're not judging the pose. You're not doing the pose just to challenge yourself. As I progressed with yoga, I realized that my desire was not to do faster and more, but rather slower and sometimes longer. And I had more of a need to bring it in daily, more regularly than once a week, or more regularly than once a day for 20 minutes. Some of the poses can be challenging, but we can adapt to the poses, which is also a nice thing to know. Remember, your self-care if it comes to asana work also goes around adaptation for your own body type.
And in my own practice with clients, I've experienced somebody saying, I felt so irritable. And that's not a negative. Not all experiences on the mat are going to be harmonious. Not all of life is harmonious, but what surfaces on and in the safety of your yoga mat is what the body wisdom wants you to tend to. Don't try bypass. Notice the emotions you want to step aside from. And instead of trying to avoid, just look at them a little bit curiously. That showed up today. I wonder why that's showing up today. And the fern approach is about noticing and seeing what supports me and what does not. And here's an interesting thing I've mentioned to Sandy, who loves breath work, and it's a go-to for her. But in my personal experience and also experience with many of my clients, many people just struggle to work with breath, let alone pranayama. But there is a form of breath work that we can all do, and we actually do it all the time without realizing how beneficial it is. We're not aiming to fix, it's something that happens naturally. And let's take a moment now to do a little exercise with the sigh. So, when we sigh, it is a simple, natural way to release tension without the pressure of counting specific patterns. And so I'd like you for a moment just to inhale naturally and let out your breath with a sigh, however your sigh sounds. And you can keep doing this as I talk. This immediately releases stored physical tension in your shoulders and in your jaw. So a sigh is something you can now harvest the benefits of. Let that out and allow it to release the tension. So both yoga and Reiki offer us the power of connecting with our divine essence. And this brings us to the R in our fern approach, tapping into universal energy for deep healing and balance. And what is Reiki? And I'd like to quote Dr. Mikao Usui, the founder of Reiki. Reiki is love. Love is wholeness. Wholeness is balance. Balance is well-being. Well-being is freedom from disease. And I went and looked up the translation challenge there from Japanese to English, and you can read dis-ease there. So dis-ease. So when you're uncomfortable. Reiki helps the body reduce stress and relax, and it helps the body to heal itself and the whole being to find balance again. So Reiki helps shift the nervous system from fight, flight, freeze mode to rest, digest, and restore mode. In order for the whole body to repair, it needs to be in a relaxed state. And scientific studies show now that this claim is supported. And what's more, it's available and accessible to everybody. Christine Wishka says it so beautifully. The life force energy of the universe is always around you. The life-giving energy is available, loving, and abundant in nature. We all have the freedom and ability to connect to this energy at any time we choose. The art of Reiki is learning to access and become attuned to this energy on a regular basis with the intention of yourself and others. And she adds that Reiki is the practice of making use of human hands to stimulate energy and information flow to amplify the body's self-healing capabilities, because fascia is largely collagen-based and collagen is conductive. We use the fascial system specifically to stimulate energy flow in the body.
That is so beautifully said, and a lot of wisdom there. I'm so grateful to not you, Maya, for doing research for us, but also to the people that we could research and for them sharing their information so freely with the world. There's so much there. The world needs Reiki now. I hear that so often, and I can't agree more, because we need to learn to work together towards this new paradigm that we're creating. And in order for us to collaborate, we need inner peace, right? And we need a guidance, and we need to know we're supported. And so yesterday, on this little side note here, I was co-leading a hospice group, and I was supposed to do the feedback when the people did their sharing. And so in preparation for that, we can notice what we notice, that we get a little bit nervous about how is it going to go down. And while I was contemplating doing my work, preparing, I sat in meditation, and I just realized in this moment of silence that I just have to take myself out of the way, my nervousness to the side, and my expectation to the other side, and let Reiki do the work. And so I did a self Reiki practice, and I did my distance Reiki. And yeah, it's coming through me, but my channels need to be open, right? And so when we want to collaborate with other people, we need to make sure that we are harmonized. It's a vibrational thing. So once we can create peace in our vessel, our body, and we become a more harmonized person, wherever we go, there we are, and everybody benefits. And it's not as difficult as we think it is, but it is taking ownership of it and holding ourselves accountable to keep doing this on a daily basis so that we can tune the vessel, right? You might be listening to this and wondering how to use the Reiki if you're not trained. Not everybody is Reiki trained, although Reiki is available, the energy is available for everybody. So you can find yourself in a stressful situation. Maybe you're sitting in a dentist chair. When you notice something in your body saying, I'm uncomfortable, thoughts coming up, you can basically just, in the dentist chair, softly touch your thigh. Nobody needs to notice it. You can feel the support because your thigh is there, and the thigh is supported by the chair, and the chair is supported by the earth. There's a warmness. You can put a bit of pressure on that thigh, and it will support your hand. It's not going to fall straight through. You're basically starting to pacify yourself. It's the light touch that you're doing. For those who have done tapping, it's kind of that feeling. You're not disconnected. I can support myself through this moment by grounding myself into my body, taking my mind out of thinking and into feeling my body right now. Because when we're in that uncomfortable anxiety state there, we're thinking about possibilities. But when I put myself back into my vessel by touching my leg, now I'm grounded in my body again. And I will find a sense of calm coming back to myself. And you can keep your hand there for the entire time. In fact, if you have something over you, which they sometimes give you, you can actually clasp your hand underneath the blanket they give you and keep your hands touched. Reiki is always present and always available to us, and we don't have to be trained. We need to acknowledge it, I think, and ask and tap into it.
It comes to choice again, Sandy, choosing to work with universal life force energy. It's around us all the time, and it's a choice. I invite it, I choose it as my companion to support me in my journey through this day. So Reiki is administered by placing hands on or off the body, and energetically your arms and hands are extensions of your heart energy, and it relates to why we call Sanctuary for Life our online heart space. Your hands are connected to your heart. You can bring comfort to yourself. You can create that daily sanctuary you seek. And here's another quite pertinent to Reiki, quote again from Joanne Avison. Fascia in the hands, listen to the fascia in the body. Hands are made of fascia, they are sensing tissue. When we touch fascia meets fascia. Fascia is information, it's confirmation, sometimes transformation, and it is in conversation that information can definitely change states. And we can bask in it and we can make it part of our daily rhythms and our routine. So, time to move to nature infused, grounding yourself in the elemental wisdom of the natural world. So, Sandy, I think nature has been such a integral part of our lives, our shared lives growing up together.
Absolutely, Maya. So I think if I look at the fern approach, my first letter of the alphabet that I learned was N for nature, and how nature can be a healing modality in my self-care practice. And that goes back to how we were exposed to nature as young children growing up in the southern tip of Africa, and our parents, for whom I'm extremely grateful for offering that to me. You know what? If I see parents to this day taking their kids camping or taking their kids on a hike or even onto the beach and showing them something on the sand, I have those flashbacks from our childhood, but also I send them some gratitude because they are creating nature infused, aware human beings. Because that's where it started for us. And those kids will always see life through nature.
Yeah, I think we were very blessed. And you know, we are nature. And it is no coincidence that FYRN approach, FYRN, translates to FERN, the plant fern. You know, we working with fascia, it is nature. Reiki is universal life force, it's in everything. Yoga, the nature images are right through there. It's working with the elements of nature, it is all there. So the whole approach we have is about being nature. I came across this phrase, my soul yearns to linger at the speed of nature. Unfortunately, I couldn't track down the origin, but we bring this into our fern approach. We mentioned already that the fern lifestyle approach is about finding the pace that works for you. So the offerings that we give. This suggests we adopt a lifestyle that is not rushed. We are mirroring the growth of plants. We don't plant broccoli seeds today and then have broccoli tomorrow. There's a waiting period. Same with Reiki, same with yoga. We grow and evolve, and there are seasons in our life. So there's the sense of lingering in stillness. Can you linger in nature? Can you appreciate the stillness? And our nature for you might be the little cactus on your desk. Or maybe you're fortunate, like I am, to live in a nature reserve where I'm surrounded by amazing bird life and wildlife and an ocean on my doorstep. But not everybody has that. Many people are in an apartment. But you can bring nature to you and you can listen to a recording of ocean waves. And nature is healing. It's a way that we can unburden our hearts and reconnect with peace. And for me, nature's part of every day. Sandy, as you said, everything we do every day is part of nature. We drink water, we eat food. Nature is ever present.
Yeah, and I've noticed, and you probably noticed as well, on my days that I don't get my nature full, my body will tell me. She'll feel a little bit off center. And if I sit and I ask, what does she need? She might say, go for a walk. sit outside in the sunlight. It's like those are the intuitive things that we know to do. And that's part of how I kind of uncovered my ahas. You go through something and then you start trying to help yourself. And then you notice, oh, I feel better if I do something. And it's only now that we have gotten to the point where we've got the FYRN approach guide completed that I'm starting to understand why my intuitive nature wanted to do that movement activity, or that it was the fascia, you know, this, the information telling me. I don't know where it was coming from. It's just like we have this sensory idea that I'm supposed to be going for a walk now or going for a swim now, because that wisdom is in us, but we've forgotten, or we never knew intellectually. We knew in our body, yes, but as our body wisdom, but we didn't connect it to intelligence or, wisdom. And now with all this coming out and the fascia work coming to the forefront, it's like putting everything together and making so much sense why all these modalities overlap and work in harmony together. And I'm kind of excited to see where all of this is going to go in the upcoming months and years.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I had this, like you say, intuitive sense that there were these connections. We are in this web of life. I worked with eco psychology and I brought that in. I take a lot of my yoga work outdoors, and work in nature, moving away from perfect conditions in a studio to the imperfect moments of seasons and wind and sand, and noticing what happens then. Yeah, we are nature, and understanding this amazing sixth sense that we have, this, we are made this way, we have this web within us, and we have just forgotten how to listen, how to tap into our inner wisdom.
Yeah, I love that we are now starting to remember. I mean, we all will have trauma in our lives because we're a living human being, right? There will be traumatic events. And we all have fascia. So we will have these experiences. And so knowing how to take care of ourselves would be, you would think, almost like something you want to put in your first aid kit, right? We've spoken about daily practices, right? But I also want to talk about on the go practices. So just like we start with yoga asanas on the mat, and then it filters into the rest of our life. Some of the 7 other limbs. The same thing happens with the fern approach. It becomes something I try to put into my daily life as a practice. But there are pieces that once I've learned, and the techniques are very simple, as Maya explained to us, that I can incorporate at any time during my stressful day, or during my relaxing day, or during my week. It doesn't only have to happen under specific set circumstances, like, that everything has to be correct. You prepare yourself for the day with the daily practice, and then you go out in the world and somebody cuts you off in the traffic. And then somebody takes your parking spot, and then you're late for an appointment. So you can, at that point, when you notice that you are out of rhythm, off center, you can restore to your original calm self right there in the middle of your day. And all you need to do is one of these techniques that we've explained today, 90 seconds of rebounding, 90 seconds of prayer, hands to the sternum, It doesn't take a lot once we know and we practice them so that we can remember when something goes off, that we can do it right there and then. That example about the dentist chair, by just touching the body lightly with our own hands, whether it is on the thigh or the upper arm, or putting it over the heart chakra, or actually folding your hand and holding your own hand under the table if you need to. That is a way for us to ground us there and then into our body and to drop the level of anxiety that we're experiencing so that we can move forward and connect to the people we are with in that moment. Because remember, that's what it's all about. When I start going off my center, I'm losing connection to the people in the room with me because I'm not open completely. I'm starting to close to self-protect. So self-care needs to be portable, doable, repeatable.
So, what we share are our lived experiences and how we've noticed how it's improved our quality of life. And on our website, we have a 10-minute quick start flow with suggestions related to each of the fern approach. There's a fascia exercise, a yoga inspired posture, as a short Reiki exercise, and there's a nature suggestion that anyone can use. The blog post, The Silent Language of Your Body, Understanding Fascia and Traumas, there. In our show notes, you can find the website address. You will find also a downloadable recording of the Gassho technique. And we've also referenced all the people that we mentioned here as mentors in our show.
Thank you, Maya, for a wonderful podcast as always, and also taking us to the exercises because those were very helpful. And I liked it because it's so the simplicity of it.
So our next talk is about the sovereignty circle. It's a silent intentional space. It is a way to connect with one another through resonance and to find that peace and that stillness together. But we will talk about that in our next podcast. We encourage you to drop us a note at explore@lotsofpossibilities.com. If you want to ask something specific, please go and peruse the website. Have a beautiful day, everybody.